Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone ready? Almost ready. It's all right. I'm going to start, and whomever is finishing their conversation or their coffee, they can join us. My name is Mohammed Al-Siddiq. As Rika said, I co-founded a digital consultancy and training company recently at 2454 in Abu Dhabi, and I've been the digital communications manager for a company called Mubadala Development Company. It's an Abu Dhabi government-owned entity with global portfolio around the world. I've been working in the digital communication and marketing area for the past 10 years in companies, different organizations in Abu Dhabi and in UAE. For today's session, and given the fact that we're celebrating the Innovation Week, I wanted to put together 7 things that I've learned personally, 7 insights that I've used over and over in projects and initiatives that I worked on, things that I've learned and have helped me a lot to think innovatively, to bring solutions and hopefully solve some problems and challenges that we face in businesses today. None of these are, they're not in a scientific kind of order. They're just personal insights and lessons that I wanted to share with you today. Kind of covered who am I. The content of the presentation is just simple 7 points. I'm not going to go through. Hopefully it will be done in half an hour, so you guys kind of get refreshed before the next session. And these are some of the hashtag and social media kind of handles that you can use. I know that a lot of entities are using the official UAE Innovates hashtag for the week. I'll leave my email and the other contacts as well towards the end of the presentation. The first one I wanted to talk about is something that it's kind of funny, and a lot of us have seen, at some point during their careers, that sometimes people correlate innovation to the fact that it means we need more ideas. So if you're organizing within a corporate environment, or if you're a startup and you're just trying to address a challenge or a problem, and someone say, we really need to innovate, we need to think creatively, we need to solve this challenge in a way that haven't been solved before, usually this translates to the fact that we need more ideas, which is actually, if you've been through this scenario, you realize that's not the case. You can sit down and for 1 hour just throw ideas off, and you can list down in a Word document 20 million ideas in a day, but that's not what innovation is all about. A couple of insights and lessons that I've learned and I wanted to share with you within that kind of context is that for you to think innovatively and deliver breakthroughs, you really need to develop the talent for spotting the good ideas. So you can throw ideas off, you can bounce ideas off of your partners or your team members, but you need to develop that talent. This is a good idea, this is a bad idea. This idea might hopefully work if we invest the time and the money and the effort and energy into it, and this might not. And when you talk about good ideas, again, a good definition that helped me a lot and hopefully will help you is that a good idea really addresses a real market need. It seems obvious, but I've seen examples where I've been in a meeting, sitting down with the team, and we're thinking of a certain challenge, whether it's, it's a CRM project, and we're trying to think of ways to kind of engage our customers, or trying to think of ways to kind of cross-promote different products to them. And the ideas being thrown around in that meeting room usually doesn't really address any need or specific need of that customer segment, which is obviously, it means that that's a signal that most probably that's not a good idea. The other kind of thing I think about when we think about good ideas is also it has to have a unique proposition and creates value. If the idea doesn't generate money, if it doesn't enhances customer service, if it doesn't lead to more leads, if it doesn't increases employee engagement, whatever the project area you're working on or the problem that you're trying to address, it needs to solve that address. It might seem obvious, but I'm sure we all have come across scenarios where people discuss and throw ideas off that doesn't tick or kind of doesn't address these 3 dimensions when we talk about good ideas. Something also that I wanted to kind of highlight as well, that you really need to have sometimes the courage to take risks and invest in good ideas. That's something that, again, some people might seem kind of obvious, but rarely you've seen examples where people stand behind their ideas, and especially if it's truly innovative and creative ideas, and especially given working with with in corporate environments and big organizations, usually ideas or new ideas and innovative ideas get shut down on the same day or maybe within the same hour. So this is where you really need to have the courage to stand behind your ideas and take the risks. And I love this quote that I came across, I think, in a Harvard Business Review article, which talks about that, innovation is not an idea solution. It's not usually about idea solutions. It's a recognition solution. It's about recognizing the good ideas. It's about spotting these good ideas and standing behind them, investing in them, putting the time, the money, the energy into these ideas to develop them. And the last point, which again, it seemed obvious, but I wanted to highlight it as well, is that innovation is all about change. If that idea doesn't bring positive change, if it doesn't get done and delivered, then you're really not innovating. So you can't really call thinking about a cool idea innovation. I came across an example actually yesterday. Some of you might have seen it. Ittihad newspaper, for the Innovation Week, they've introduced their very thin, transparent layer on top of the newspaper. They kind of wrap their newspaper in that thin. I mean, it seems like a cool thing that they would do on the Innovation Week, and I'm assuming someone, sat there and said, we need to do something cool, innovative for the newspaper on the fact that, it's Innovation Week. Someone suggested doing that thin, transparent sheet to wrap up even though it looks cool, some people might think, oh, this is innovative, but it's actually not an innovation, It's just a gimmick. It's just an aesthetic. It's just, a thin veneer of something that they put in the newsletter that has no meaningful, it doesn't bring meaningful change to the newspaper readers, which obviously their key target audience. Obviously, that's not to kind of say that they haven't thoroughly thought about it or kind of but it's just an example that where you see an idea that some people might regard as innovative, but if you really think about it, is not innovative at all, because it doesn't. It's not a good idea. It doesn't cater to a market need. It doesn't bring any positive change. It's not going to help them sell more newspapers. It's not going to enhance the reading experience of their newspaper readers. It's kind of the first point. And you guys, I'm going to be very kind of fluid with this session. So if you can stop me at any time if you have any questions or if you have any points or opinions around any of these points. The second point I wanted to highlight, which I'm glad to see there's a lot of sessions throughout the week to talk about design thinking, something that I'm extremely passionate about, even though I worked for the past 7 to 8 years in roles that are mostly project management and leadership roles rather than actual designing solutions or products or thinking about the architecture of things. But you get to interact with a lot of people, and when you interact with especially within my role at Mubadala, we interact with people from across the globe, and we interact with people in different disciplines and different sectors. And that's one day I might be talking about a healthcare project, a healthcare-related project. Another day we could be talking about a media, or we've got a cartoon character called Mansour. So another day could be working on a cartoon character, and the variety of the projects made you realize that design thinking is such a crucial tool that you can apply in every single project. That thinking, and people who might not be familiar with the terminology or the approach, design thinking is really simple. It's all about putting yourself in the shoes or in your kind of putting the hat of your customer, thinking about your user or your customer or your audience, and thinking about what they're feeling when they're using your product, or thinking about their needs, their concerns, their context, their environment. That kind of thinking kind of transforms the way you think about when you're releasing a feature to an app, when you're designing a new website, when you're working on a physical product that you might release in the market. Whatever thing, and I've tried to keep this presentation as generic as possible, even though I'm digital focused. But all of these points really apply to any type of projects. If you're working on a presentation for a talk next week, design thinking will help you. Put yourself, how big is the audience? What kind of environment? I'm going to speak in a big room. Is it a small conference? Are people expecting me to interact with the audience, or is it more kind of people laid back and they would just want to hear what this person has to say? That kind of thinking is extremely essential, and it's a great strategy for innovation. When you rewire your brain to think in that way, you'll immediately see that innovative things and innovative kind of things will start flowing into the project you're working on. And this obviously includes things like you need to obsess about your audience and their context. You need to research and talk to others about your idea, which is, again, I've seen examples where I meet a brilliant guy who has an amazing idea, but they've kept it to themselves, or they've kept it within their team and they don't talk to others about it. That's such a waste of valuable insights that you can get from just bouncing ideas of other people and talking to other people. You know, if you have an amazing idea, even though you might be worried that it's a dumb idea or it might not work, just talk to people. You know, talk to a handful of people. Not necessarily within your team, not necessarily within your company. Talk to people, reach out to people, and you'll find amazing insights and amazing viewpoints that you might never thought of. You know, sometimes it's even helpful talking to kids about things. You know, it might seem counterintuitive, but you know, try sometimes to show. You know, even if you're designing an app, say for adults, try to show it to a kid and try for that kid to use that app and see what kind of feedback and reactions and kind of perceptions that the kid has. You know, it might help you, it might not help you, but again, that's something that I've seen creates positive change and brings positive change to projects. And obviously, design thinking, one of the great things that design thinking brings is the idea that you can ideate, prototype, and test. You can think of ideas, bring these ideas to reality. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be full-fledged realities. It could be a portion of that idea, or it could be a skeleton of that idea. Test it with people, and then go back and design, and then go back. And this kind of iterative and kind of approach is amazing, and I've seen it in everything I've done in my career. I've seen it with other teams as well. That regardless of what you're working on, it could be you're working on a press release to announce your company. It could be you're working on a presentation. It could be you're working on an app. It could be you're working on a sales pitch. It could be you're writing an email, a very important email that you're going to share with someone. That idea of iterative enhancements and refinements just takes you a long way. And obviously, you know, you'll hear more about it maybe in the design thinking session, but empathy is such an important concept within design thinking, and that kind of thinking and deeply caring about your audience or your customers brings a lot of positive change and help you think creatively when you're designing that product for your audience. The third point I wanted to touch on is and I've seen it a lot, is that, you know, really if your design thinking is your friend, perfection or perfectionist people might not be the most suitable people to kind of or might not be the most suitable approach when you're building these products or when you're trying to bring these innovations. You know, breakthroughs are usually messy, and if you read about any kind of innovation, whether you're thinking of iPhone as an innovation, or you're thinking about iTunes as a business model, or you're thinking of Instagram as a service, as an innovation, all of these at the surface might look perfect and well designed and well refined, when in reality they've gone through a messy journey to bring down that idea. And again, everyone who've delivered something that they felt very proud of knows this, you know, knows that it's a messy kind of journey to be able to release and get something out of the world. You might think of it when you plan it that it's a very well-structured, organized process to deliver that project. In reality, is not like this. And this is where certain concepts, and you know, and some people might feel uncomfortable with these concepts, such as, you know, staying lean and be agile with the way that you iterate on your products and bring these down innovations and introduce features. Some people might not feel comfortable, you know, most notably, obviously, you know, people who come from development or IT backgrounds. They love the documentation part. They love to know that every single thing they need to understand, you know, how this is going to work, what happens if someone does this, why, you know, document every single thing. And documentation and being kind of very detailed in things is obviously has its reasons for certain projects. But in general, and this is something I've seen personally, is that when you stay lean and you be more agile and you kind of focus on the big picture, you'll be able to deliver more innovative ideas. You'll be able to deliver better products, hopefully that kind of better products or better services, and even better businesses. If you're working, and if I've had this experience over the past few months in setting up 8 in Abu Dhabi, is that if you're a perfectionist and if you're gonna obsess and worry and be concerned about every single detail every single point when you're setting up your business, and especially if you're setting up, bootstrapping your business and you're trying to get by and you're trying to kind of really start up that business. You won't be able to do it. You need to let go of things. You need to be able to relax your kind of and put your perfectionist brain away for a while until you've got the kind of the business rolling and get the business on its feet. So that's something that I found it very useful or very kind of valuable. I was in US a month ago, and I visited the Google Visitor Center at Mountain View, and I've seen something really cool that I thought it's very relevant for today's session. Is that when you go into their visitor center, they have like a hand-drawn sketch of their traffic, of Google's traffic over the years, measured by result pages per day. And what's amazing about it is that they've invited all employees to put down on sticky notes or write down on the board whatever small innovations, small features, small changes that they've brought and ideas they brought to the search engine to be able to achieve what they've done today, which a lot of people would agree is one of the most innovative services in the world. The fact that you'll be able to tap into the world's knowledge within a few seconds on Google. And when you see these small notes, whether it's a small refinement in an algorithm, or it's a small event, or if it's a small product announcement, or if they've killed the product, or if they've introduced a product, you realize that what most people regard as great innovations is built up over time, and it's a very messy journey that they've learned from a lot of mistakes, and they've done a lot of, obviously, good things. Another thing that I find also amazing is that sometimes you stumble upon these things as you go along. So that's why kind of it goes back to the point of being perfectionist and everything has to be according to the plan might not work always. Flickr is a great example of this. So I'm not sure how many of you guys know how Flickr started. Flickr is a very popular photo sharing site. It used to be one of the most popular. I think now it's been threatened by a number of competitors. Well, actually Flickr came out from a game. The original company that created Flickr was a gaming and software development company, and they realized while they're doing the chat for the game, they introduced a small feature where the players can share photos while they're chatting with other players, and they realized that's a pretty neat feature, and users loved it, and they'd be able to tag the different photos where they're uploading, and this is where the co-founder of the business at the point, he shifted gears. He shelved and canceled the game project, and he focused on Flickr, and he introduced it to the world, and obviously years on, Yahoo bought it, and and they've had an enormous success with their user base and the value they've created. But just thinking about that journey is just always amazes me, because you might have the greatest plans that I'm going to set up the next company, or I'm going to do this e-commerce platform, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to detail every single step I'm going to do over the next 12 or 24 months, when in reality, you need to be prepared to spot things that are working really well, and then refocus and kind of shift gears almost and pivot to be able to head in that direction. That's a pretty cool two graphs again I've came across. I'm sure some of you have seen. This is it's a very nice illustration of what some people regard innovation as a straight line moment in time. When someone invented the phone, when Steve Jobs announced the iPhone, when I don't know, Facebook went public, and people think, oh, this is amazing. But in reality, obviously, it's much more messy and much more kind of complicated and complex than it's what people see at the surface. And this is where I really like this graph as well, because it kind of shows that there's a huge amount of work that you really need to do to be able to deliver that breakthrough. It's not a matter of just sitting down and thinking of cool ideas and developing these ideas and hopefully they're a breakthrough. You need to realize that you need to make a lot of mistakes. You need to realize that you need to do your homework. You need to research. You need to test. You need to talk to people to be able, and this might take months before you get your breakthrough. And this breakthrough could be a success of a business. It could be a launch of a platform that everyone kind of enjoys and that creates value back for the company. Whatever it is, most people will just see the tip of the iceberg when they look at your product or your service or your business. Do you guys have any questions, any points? No? The next point is again something that I've used to help me a lot, is that, and I've seen it, it's a good reminder almost, because all of us, when we're faced with a challenge or a problem, would love to jump quickly to solve it. That's, I don't know if it's a human nature. We'll talk about some of the things that are kind of more in the last slide, our natural biases. But in general, we love to jump quickly into the how part to solve it. You know, if I tell you, you know, I'm a government entity, I want to engage youth around the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and I'm facing difficulty getting youth excited about math. How can I do this? A lot of people will quickly jump into ideas, you know. Will quickly say, some people might say, oh, why don't you, like, I don't know, do a magazine? Why don't you go into schools? Why don't you do this? But a few people will ask more questions. Will ask you, okay, so what's your challenge? I mean, do you have direct access to these youth? Can't you, did you talk to the education council? Did you understand what kind of curriculum is there? Is it the curriculum is not good? Is it the fact we need to introduce more programs? And this is where focusing on the what rather than the how helps a lot when you're trying to reach that breakthrough and deliver innovative solutions. You know, there's a very famous Einstein quote that said, if you have 20 days to solve a problem, you know, he would take 19 days to define it, and then just 1 day to actually solve it. Which might be too extreme if you're thinking about project life cycles. You know, if you have 1 year to deliver a project, obviously you don't want to spend 11 months just planning or understanding the problem. But there's truth in it that you really need to understand your challenge, your problem, the issue that you're trying to address before you jump into solutions. And this kind of brought me back to another point that a lot of people think, is that innovation usually it's about technical or technology innovations, where anyone who have worked on different projects or have read about this subject that realize that actually a lot of the innovations that we see today has nothing to do with technology, or technology is only one factor in that. There's a great book that I'm gonna recommend in the end that talks about the different types of innovations. But you know, there's a lot of types of, you know, Amazon is an extremely innovative e-commerce platform. It's not because it has the most amazing website or platform. It's because they brought in certain processes and certain frameworks into the way that they've conduct business. Maybe they have a very unique culture. They're patented one-click kind of buy. All of these are small innovations that might not be kind of directly related to technology. And you need to remind yourself, you know, innovation is not only about technology, and you know, try to kind of stay away from that kind of perception. Research is crucial. Again, that's, you know, I'm sure you come across it in so many different contexts, and that people say, you know, you need to do your research, to do your planning. In reality, I've seen so many projects where very little time spent on research, and I've seen, you know, and it's very interesting, these scenarios, when you doing presentations like this, you look at back things that I've done personally, where I had to, for example, if I'm reviewing a proposal for an agency, I had actually to minimize the research time to save cost. So it's, you know, sometimes you know, there's trade-offs and compromises that you make, but in the end of the day, research is crucial. And there's a really cool book that I can't recall the exact title of it, but it's the concept of it is that do research, or do as much research as you can do. So if you can do only 1 day of research, do it. If you can do only 1 hour, then do it. But at least do some kind of research. And one thing to remind ourselves with is that innovation usually is also influenced by social factors more than technology. Again, examples that I've seen, that someone has a great idea, but that idea will never see light of day, and none of you guys will get to interact with that idea, whether it's an app or a service or a business, because that person didn't understand the social factors with bringing that innovation, didn't understand that there are politics involved, whether if you're an organization or in a community or in a certain society. That person might also not understand that the fact that you need to market this idea, you know, and really sell that idea to bring it to life. And that's something that I've seen people who are very passionate about some of their ideas, they kind of steer away and don't focus on marketing and communicating effectively about their ideas. That's another cool quote that I came across in Computer Museum. It talks about how Thomas Watson, which was the chairman for IBM early on in the company's kind of life, and he really grown the company significantly. He's the guy who actually, I'm sure you guys have seen ThinkPad and Think laptops, and I don't know if you've came across Think Moto before, or you've seen it. He's the one who introduced it to the company's culture. And what I love about this quote is that this is a person who early on in the technology kind of landscape recognized the importance of spending money on R&D, spending money and embedding innovation into the organization, embedding innovation. He've done it in a way that, you know, a lot of people here, sometimes you hear leaders in companies, sometimes you hear startups talk about being innovative or bringing innovation, but they do actually put it, you know, follow through and bring programs and bring change into their companies to actually reflect that mandate, let's say. This is a guy who've actually done it, you know, he've embedded that think culture into the organization. He've had extensive work on training and skill development within IBM to be able to bring that and embed that innovation culture into IBM. And he've obviously grown IBM significantly during his tenure. I love this quote. I think this is the quote when he introduced the Think motto, that, you know, that a lot of people don't actually think, you know, they're just quickly move into things and quickly do things, and quickly kind of jump into conclusions or quickly jump into solutions that they don't actually think. It's something that's really important for us to remind ourselves with it if we're really trying to be innovative and think innovatively. We've got 3 more points, actually 2 more points after this. This is a point that some people might feel kind of view it as a bit odd. Is that, what do you mean by rethink the way you think, or what do you mean by I need to change the way I think? Again, it's just simple things that you need to always remind yourself of. Simple things that when you're tackling a challenge or a problem, you're working on a business idea, you're testing a new app, you're working on a new e-service, you're releasing a new e-commerce platform, is that, you know, simple kind of principles and simple values that you need to kind of think about and practice and make sure that you embed them in your daily behaviors and the way you work is crucial. Things like frame shifting, and if you read about this subject, is fascinating. The fact that, you know, the fact that you be able, it's a kind of, on its own, it's a very extensive topic, but the fact that you be able to shift your frames and look from different perspectives, whether you're looking, let's say you're working on a marketplace project, let's say it's a strategy where you've got multiple people, you've got suppliers, you've got sellers, you've got buyers, you've got shareholders you need to think about. The idea of you being able to practice and shift your frames to look at, okay, what does the shareholder want from me? What does the supplier want from that platform? What does the seller want? It's an extremely important idea to be able to deliver breakthrough and design your service or products in a way that will be able to really add value to your to the company. And that kind of changing perspectives and looking at these conflicting opinions is crucial. There are also tools and techniques that you can do. I know that most popular one is, let's do a brainstorming session, or, you know, we need to brainstorm ideas. But there are other tools and techniques that you can do I'm the type of person who would love the, I don't know if you guys have heard the 5 whys. No? So the idea that you be able to, if someone asks you, let's add a feature, or someone asks you, I think adding this to this app is a really cool idea, ask them why. And if they answer you and say, because this is, let's say they're, okay, let's come up with a hypothetical example. Let's say someone is saying, I want to add personalization option to an app. I want to be able for people to personalize the app. And if you ask them, but why would I do that? And if they don't have an answer, it means they haven't done their homework and they haven't thought through the process of bringing such idea to that app. And if they say, you know what, I think because we will be delivering a better user experience. Again, ask them why. Why do you think adding personalization is going to add to the user experience? He might say, you know what, because it will enable people to read content that's relevant for them. Let's assume it's a newspaper app. Then again, ask why. Why do you think people would be so interested? You know, can they just go into the category? And then just that practice of asking why a number of times will reveal things that either holes in your strategy or either strength in your strategy, that you have a really strong idea that you're able to bring to the market. Another point that I wanted to mention as well, sometimes, and it's something that I've done personally with my partners at 8, is that we're thinking extensively about the actual office environment that we wanted for our company. And that's something that we realize that it's a crucial element. Some people might not think it is, but it is a crucial element. The way that you've set up the office, the way that employees will sit in that office, the way that the texture and the colors within that office, the way that where the windows are placed, where you can brainstorm, where the meetings are placed, how employees, are you going to just put developers on one side, are you going to put designers on another side, or are you going to create a kind of a centralized place where everyone works regardless of their role within the company? All this kind of thinking is important to design that environment around people, so they become more innovative, they become more creative, and they can really deliver innovative solutions. And it's not only about the environment, it's also about the people. I've seen brilliant people who are very creative and they come up with crazy ideas every few minutes, but after some time, if you put them in an environment where they're surrounded by people who are either cynical or people who would take them down and give them negative input in every single idea, these people actually lose that talent and lose that brilliance that they've got in them. And this is something that, environment and people is crucial, and keep just reminding yourself, that these are two elements that you need to take care within the context of the people who are working on, thinking on, and you're trying to be push them to be more innovative. Other things as well that you might think they're obvious, but I've seen numerous examples where people fall short of this, is that people think you've got a team leader who say, we need to really think innovatively. This customer portal is not working, customers are not using it, we need to figure out the solutions. And that person who's saying this, we need to think innovatively and we need to open up and really, sky's the limit, let's do whatever we want to do, let's do a brainstorming session. They're not open to receive feedback, or they're not open to also give articulate feedback, or they're not open to collaborate with other people. If they're the type of people who will think that, what they think is the right thing and everyone else is just an opinion, and what has to be done is their thinking. Again, all of these things are factors, and if you're trying to build an innovative company, if you're trying to build an innovative service or an innovative product, you need to think about these things. Even when you're hiring people to work on that idea, you need to think about their capacity and their ability to give and receive feedback and to collaborate with others. Another example that I've worked on a pro bono project for a communication association. It's called MEPRA. It's Middle East Public Relations Association. And the project was to kind of revamp everything they're doing within their main digital platform, which was a platform that had things like dedicated sections for members. It had payment integration. It had event calendars. It had contributors section where people can contribute content. So it's a very extensive platform, and we've had a very small team, given that the fact we're doing this just to help the association. They didn't have any budget towards that. And one thing that I've seen is that if you're persistent and you have the faith that you can deliver and you can find the solution to address their needs, you really, in a lot of scenarios, you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to pull it off. If you have the passion, if you're persistent, and you really believe that you can find the solution, you'll find it eventually. And that's something that I've seen, that some people kind of got frustrated in the beginning, that there's no way we'll be able to deliver this, for example, for free for this company. Or there's no way we'll be able to deliver this within 2 months. Or let's say there's no way we'll be able to convince the leadership that this is a good idea. I've seen a million reasons not to do something, when in reality, if you really just be a bit more persistent, invest a bit time and energy, do your research, understand your audience, understand who you're presenting to, who you're selling that idea to, and have some faith as well. It's very important. You need to have the confidence and the faith that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it through. It goes a long way in terms of making your idea or bring your idea to life. That's another thing that a lot of people, one more point away till we wrap up, is that a lot of people think innovative ideas means original ideas. And people need to realize that that's actually absolutely not true. Any idea, any innovation that you'll come across or you think, it's already influenced by other people, influenced by other ideas, influenced by other products. No matter what, anything that you will find, barely anything is entirely original. And your role as you're bringing innovation to your product or your service or your company is to try to connect things that are seamlessly unconnected. If someone tells you, I have an issue where, and we've seen this, I've seen this a couple of examples at Mubadala, where we've got a challenge of employee engagement that sits across geographies. That's a big challenge. If you've got a dispersed team across different continents, different time zones, how do they deliver a project in a seamless way? And you be able, when you dig down and try to think of, there might be things that, not technology related, that you can introduce to be able to help bridge and connect these teams and increase engagement and increase collaboration between these teams. And something that a lot of people might not realize is that, to be innovative, you don't have to break down things. You can refine them, you can enhance them, you can improve them. And that's something that's very important to remind yourself, whether you're working, again, on a service, on a business, on a product, and you're trying to really break through competition and you really add a very unique value proposition to your product, pick one side of the project or one side of the product and think of how can I improve this and enhance this in a way that nobody else will be able to compete with that aspect. I'll do it in a way that's extremely well done, that others who are trying to do everything, who are trying to break down their products and rebuild it again and introduce new ideas to the market, won't be able to compete with you. That's another quote that I came across, is that all ideas are made from other ideas, which is absolutely true. Everything that you're thinking is based on perceptions that are either you've seen them or your parents told it, informed you about them. They had to come from somewhere. And when you're trying to learn, and I've seen these examples as well, is when people try to learn from what other people have done, they tend to focus on the end product or the deliverable. So if I'm starting up the next photo sharing app, a lot of people will start thinking about, okay, how Flickr became so successful? How did Instagram become so successful? And they obsess about the end product, and about the deliverable and the service that it exists today. Whereas if you're really trying to learn from them and what they've done and how they become so successful, you need to understand the journey they've been through. You need to understand who were the team who were working on Instagram when it started, what type of talents and skills they brought in. Did they get it right from the beginning, or did they get it wrong? And what failures and mistakes that they've done throughout the project that made them think and realize and refine the project. And you realize that every single innovation, Instagram is most notably I think they've released the first app, which used to be very complicated, a lot of features, and they picked out one feature, and then it used to be called something else, not Instagram. I don't recall the name, but then they've picked out that feature, and then they've released it as Instagram, just one single, simple, straightforward, kind of simple user experience to upload and share photos with your friends and network. And this is where, if you look at anything, like a lot of people would regard the iPhone as an innovative product, the first iPhone. And if you look at what Apple have done before that, you realize that it didn't come from a vacuum. So it's not like Steve Jobs sat down with 5 engineers and they've locked themselves for a month until they come up with the iPhone. That's absolutely not true. They've had huge failures with the products, such as Newton, that actually had direct correlations to things that they've put in the iPhone. Some of the technologies that they've invented for Newton or they've developed for Newton are actually used in the first iPhone. They've had another failure with introducing a product with Motorola, an iTunes kind of enabled phone. It was the only and the first and the last phone that Apple collaborated with someone else to do. But they've also had amazing successes and products that they've learned from, such as the iPod and the iTunes service. They've also looked at the competition and what they were doing, and all of these, along with the talent they've got within the company, with the culture within the company, enabled them to deliver the iPhone. So it didn't come out from a vacuum. It didn't come out the year ahead or 2 years ahead of the iPhone. It came out actually 10 or 20 years, and all these factors played a role in that introduction. And it's funny as well, because when you look at some of the marketing materials that they've released with the Newton, and you read through it, you realize, the iPhone is, this is what they wanted. If you read through it, you can't read it here, but if you Google it, or when you see this presentation later on, and you read through the actual marketing copy they've developed, they're talking about the iPhone. They're talking about a device that's going to help you get things done, a simple, beautiful experience, easy to use, anyone can use it. The focus is not on the technology, the focus on the experience, the content, and about you. And it's very interesting how they've stuck to that original idea, but they ditched the actual product. They knew that I want to deliver something like this, but you know what? We've done a mistake. That's not the actual product that's going to help us do this. Let's scrap it. Let's scrap it. Let's learn from whatever we can learn from it. The last point, which for me is interesting, because I've always knew this, but I didn't realize, and when I was doing some research for this talk, that I didn't realize it's actually a scientific proven thing, that people have a bias against creativity and innovative ideas. So if you I've read a couple of articles where they're suggesting, for example, if you go to a meeting and if you stand up instead of sitting down, everyone will feel uncomfortable. They'll look at you like, okay, what's happening? People are, they're in uncertain scenarios, they have negative bias or negative perception about creative ideas. And you can also see this if you've ever met a stressful person before launching a product, or a stressful person who's very consumed with working on something, and try to throw some ideas off. They'll get really pissed off and they'll try to pick holes and really tell you that your idea sucks, which is kind of weird, but it's human nature. In times of uncertainty, in times where there's many unknowns, if I'm not comfortable with that domain, if I'm not certain where this company is heading, and you come and tell me some ideas, I'm going to be negative to that kind of innovation and that kind of innovative or unique or creative ideas that might actually help me. And this is where scientifically proven that most people prefer or favor practicality over creativity. If you give them a practical idea, or if you give them a unique creative idea that might have not been tested before, most people will be very afraid to try the other one and will go with the safe, practical approach. And this is actually, you can see throughout history, where a lot of the ideas that we see today, like the phone or the whatever, pick any kind of innovation that you think it's really innovative. If you read through it, at some point, when the inventor or the person who worked on it, I'm sure they got rejected many times at the beginning before they were able to kind of break through and deliver that idea. And it ties back to this idea that a lot of people have biases against uncertainty or unknown or creativity, and as human beings we have that. That's the book I wanted to recommend to you guys. It's a really cool visual book, which I love about this book, is that everything inside is very illustrated nicely designed, and it talks about the different types of innovations, and within each type of innovation they're bringing a lot of examples. How many of you guys have seen this book? Okay, cool. It's the idea is that they're showing you actual examples and models and case studies from each one of these innovations. And when you read through them, you realize that none of the companies and the products and the services you regard as innovative today are innovative for the reasons that you think they are. If you think about anything from, the fact that, why Uber is such an innovative service, or why Amazon is such a successful e-commerce platform, or why iTunes is the largest music store, or why Spotify were able to kind of break through and introduce their online music streaming. You realize that they've done something, they've done their homework, they've picked out an area of innovation, they've invested in it heavily, and they've tested things, and they've realized their mistakes, and they went back to the drawing board and kind of pivot again and shifted directions. That's all for today. Thank you so much for being the audience. You guys have any questions? Yeah?
First of all, can I have a definition for innovation?
Innovation, I would think about it, is anything that brings positive change to your company, your service, your product, and that positive change could be manifested in increase of sales, an increase of customer service, an increase of employee engagement, whatever thing. So if I tell you I have a challenge, let's say I get a lot of speeding fines, and you tell me, you introduce something to me new, you tell me, whether it's a product or a service that actually will reduce that, that's something innovative, and you might actually borrow that idea from someone else and tweaked it and present it to me, but it's still, you're being innovative. So any kind of positive change that kind of changes something to be better and creates value, you need to remember. So, and value doesn't have to be money. I keep saying the word value because it's not only about money, There's a lot of organizations who were able to bring amazing innovations and create positive change, but they're not measuring the output of their innovations by money. They could be measuring it by number of patents. They could be measuring it by number of students who graduate above a certain GPA, or whatever the situation is. That's kind of the way I think about innovation. I'm sure you'll find a better Wikipedia definition.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You have a phone?
So
Yeah.
I have several questions actually, and they're not really, they intersect in some point.
Feel free.
What are the key drivers behind innovation?
So if you want to think about the way I think about it, key drivers innovation is there's different ways to look at it. One way to look at it is to split it into people, technology, and processes. That's one way that you've seen a lot of frameworks when they talk about innovation. They think about, okay, let's say we're trying to come up with an innovative solution for that product or service. Let's look at the people we've got in the team. Do we have the right team to be able to deliver that breakthrough?
But that's what, sorry to
So one.
That's what I meant. I meant, why do people innovate? What drives, why do companies innovate? Let's assume there's no competition.
Yeah.
Okay, finally they want to stay ahead of the market. Let's say there's no competition.
Okay.
And I'm the leader in the market and I have the 100% market share.
Okay.
And I'm not worried about losing my clients because I'm the only service provider, for
Okay.
example.
Okay.
What makes me innovate?
I'll ask you one more question and then answer. So forget all of it, how do you measure your success? So are you doing better or worse? Forget innovation, forget anything else. You're the CEO of the company, and you're sitting at the end of the year. How do you know if your company is doing better or worse? Just give me
Compared
one.
to the previous year,
Yeah.
or
Compared to the previous year, yeah.
there's constant growth. There's
So
in terms of profits.
more revenue.
Okay. Revenue. The feedback I'm getting from clients is always positive and improving year after
So
year.
customer experience or customer satisfaction.
Yeah, and that's probably it. I'm talking about the case
Yeah.
where there's
So
no
these
competition.
let's talk about these two. So there's no competition, but I've asked you the question and you said, for me to say I'm successful in my business or I'm doing better, I need to make more money and make sure that my customers are happier. Now, innovation means I'm going to introduce something new to the company. So next year, these two metrics are going up, not down. You're making more money than you've done in 2015, and your customers are happier. So if you tell me, okay, what does that mean? I'll tell you, for example, let's say you're a company that sells, you're an F&B outlet, This could be looking at the environment within your restaurant in terms of how can we make people happier within and enhance the user experience of coming in and dining, whether it's the small changes that I'm going to bring throughout their experience, whether it's the type of food, whether it's the music, whether it's the lighting. And the second thing, maybe I'll look at my menu and see how can I make more money. Reduce the amount of portions of food, introduce new menu items that utilize more of the food. And these two ideas, if you bring them to your company, I would call them innovative ideas because you're able to introduce something new to the company that increase the two metrics that you care about, which is more money and make your customers happier. And this could be different. So that's for your scenario. These are the two drivers for you to be more innovative, even in the absence of competition. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
If you look at the region, innovation in the traditional sense of what you see in Silicon Valley is kind of absent, right? Maybe there's some incremental innovation in catering to the market.
Of course.
I'd like to kind of hear from you maybe why do you think that is, and what do you think someone who is doing something innovative, disruptive innovation, has to overcome to get
That's a
that?
great question, and it's extremely complicated question. There is many factors. The factors that comes to my mind, everything from the educational infrastructure we've got here in the region, from the way that investments and allocation of money is being utilized, everything to things like again, I'm thinking out loud here. Everything from the way that I'll keep going back to education because it's a big factor. Everything from even population size, and the fact that obviously in the region we're a huge population, but if you look at every specific country, they're much smaller than, let's say, US population. So if you think about why Silicon Valley and US, you've seen all the innovations that are coming from there. It's many reasons. It's that they've got a better education infrastructure. In terms of the top universities in the world, in terms of the incentives that and the way they've kind of spot out the talents and be able to develop these talents and put them in the workforce. Everything to the way that people are able to secure funds and investments to kick off their businesses. Everything to the size of the market and the population. Like I've seen examples here where people really genuinely have an amazing idea that would generate money, but wouldn't work in UAE, for example. The market is too small. And it will work in Saudi because it's a completely different market from UAE. So they're stuck. Whereas if you're in US and you come up with these ideas and you've got that massive market size, who are also extremely competitive, but it's also competition sometimes creates more value because it pushes kind of innovation, let's say, and pushes people to really think hard. And I've seen examples of that as well, where the lack of innovation, I worked in large organizations, let's say a real estate developer. Why would they innovate if they're the only company? And if their money is, let's say, they've got a stream of revenue that's already existing. Let's take that as a hypothetical example. But you've seen this in the region. They don't have a reason. Whereas if you talk to a real estate company in San Francisco, they'll go crazy. They have to come up with a way to beat the competition and to make more money because otherwise they'll die. And these are a number of reasons. I'm sure there are much more. There's socio-economic reasons that are play into. There's cultural implications in the way that we're brought up, and we're kind of from small brought up the way that our parents are kind of informing us around the world around us. There's a lot of socioeconomic kind of reasons. Your second question was?
Yeah, I mean, you basically answered it by saying why they don't come out. Those are the obstacles.
Yeah, it's many reasons, but I would, education is a big part, and that's why you see a lot of investments in the region in education, because they realize, companies like Singapore, they were able to really break through with such a small population and such a small land mass, but they've done it by heavily investing in innovation, in education, infrastructure. They've heavily invested in their financial system. They've got a very sophisticated financial system, and you start to see government entities and initiatives here in the region, whether it's things like the Innovation Week, that some people might say, okay, it's Innovation Week, it's a series of events. Are we creating patents? Are we inventing things in this? You don't have to go that far, but at least there's initiatives that are being put in place to push people to think about innovation, to make them, this is a week that we'll be able to sit back and think, what are the things that businesses are doing? What are the things that government are doing to be able to support me, or things that are some initiatives that are be able to support me? So it's going to take a lot of time for this region to catch up in terms of innovation, whether it's technology innovation or business innovation. But I think we're lucky in UAE compared to other countries in the region that we've had that advantage of support from private and public sector. Any more questions, guys? Yeah?
How can you make sure that your innovative idea will work in the market?
It's a very important question, and a lot of people overthink this question. So let's say you have an idea, yeah? Whatever way you want to present that idea is, you want to draw it on a paper, you want to put it in a PowerPoint, it has a physical idea. Let's say you're creating a new chocolate. You make that thing, test it with people. See if people will like it or not. Let's say people like it. Okay, am I going to be able to generate value from this? How can I make money out of this? And if people like it, you say, okay, maybe I'll sell it online because it's easy. I don't need to set up, whatever. I'll sell it online. Then you think about, oh, what if someone already did cool chocolate? So I need to look at competition. And then you realize, okay, you know what? Nobody have cool chocolate like mine on the market. So you know you've addressed a couple of points now. You know that people like your chocolate. You know there are no competition that has they're providing same chocolate like yours, and you know that you can create money out of it because you know that if I put it on the website, I'll be able to sell it for 20 dirhams. Payment, you know, processing fees is 2 dirhams, whatever. I'm making 18. It's cost me 9 dirhams to make, so I'm making 9 dirhams. Now, you've got all these three, yeah? Now, don't be perfectionist and think about, oh my God, I need to like maybe get a big loan and think about where do I... Just start off. You know, there's a lot of incentives here that encourages home businesses. So you'll be able to start from your home. For example, again, I'm thinking about the chocolate example. I'm sure you have something more breakthrough than more than chocolate. And then test, you know, and see where it goes. You might have a big success and you might end up with something completely different than chocolate. Or you might have a big failure, but you learn from that failure something that, you know, that no course, no talk, no whatever will teach you. You learn from it that will make your next business idea, your next innovation much more better. I came across an example. I was just reading through materials for this. You know 3M, the post-it notes? Do you guys know what 3M stands for? It's Minnesota Manufacturing and Mining. Yeah, manufacturing mine. They've started at a manufacturing mining company, and now they do, you know, stationery and other cool stuff. Obviously, not only stationery. And if you read through their story and how they've sat down and this is what we're going to do as a business, and they started doing it. But then one small engineer within their team came up with that adhesive material, and and he was cool. And his manager was able, yeah, this guy has cool. You know what? Let him do whatever he wants to do. Let's try to sell this to clients. And they've shifted the complete business towards that product because it was making money for them. So that kind of thinking and ability to shift and change is crucial when you're testing idea.
Testing the market can be like implemented in so many ways. So like one mentor told me that maybe surveys are not always good because
of course.
Maybe people will give fake responses. So how can we like? What do you think
Best suggestion: pick a small book or watch YouTube videos. There's many ways to get input and feedback from people and test ideas other than surveys. To be honest, surveys would be my least favorable. I'm a big UX and usability fan, so there's something called contextual inquiry, which is me sitting next to you, showing you the product or the service, and just letting you play around with it. And then asking you questions and watching your reactions. That kind of thing will provide you insights and feedback that you'll never get in a million surveys. Reactions of people saying, oh, this is cool, or people getting confused where to click, or people, not understanding where they're going. And that kind of reaction, you wouldn't be able to get it from surveys. There's focus groups, there's stakeholder interviews, there's a lot of tools for you to capture feedback and get input on your product. I would say test them all, or test the ones that's not costing you a lot of time and money. Surveys, try them. Interviews with people, try them. Focus group, get a couple of people in the room and put a scenario and put a kind of an outline for that group. Do it again. Whatever you can do, be able to do it. Yeah, sorry?
The landing pages.
Yeah, A/B testing and stuff like this. There's so many things, and it depends on the nature of the product. I mean, there's even more creepier ways to get feedback is just watch people use it. So don't interact with them. So if you're, let's say, designing a new cup, leave a lot of cups in a school or in a cafeteria or whatever, and just watch people use these cups. Again, a hypothetical example. And then you will learn. So don't interact with them, but you learn a lot from just observing people. You're welcome. Yeah?
Initiative was fine in this region, but innovation is expensive in terms of money, time, energy. Innovating something is expensive. So it requires personal benefit to do that, like to drive you to innovate. You should get something out of it. In this region, I feel that the laws are so stringent that it kind of constricts you to doing it within your job, or if you're a certain GCC nationality, let's say, you know, those kind of things are there where the laws
I would-
kind of constrict you.
uh,
So how do
yeah.
you overcome
So
that?
it's a great question, but for me to give you a good answer, I need to understand what type of innovation you're talking about, because there's a million things that you can introduce and innovate within organizations or within your startup or individually
No,
that has
because-
nothing to do with
Because
law.
there are so many people, you know, you could have a job and be innovating side by side. Just the way life is here doesn't allow you to do that.
Give me a specific example so I can understand.
Let's say, you know, for example, you come here for a job from an
Yeah.
outside country. You come up with an idea which requires time, effort, money, all of those things.
Yeah.
But you're in a job contract.
Yeah.
And you can't work part-time or have, you know, those kind of side,
Okay.
things. So
Give me,
that's
okay.
just one example.
Let's say your idea requires 50,000 dirhams to be able to manifest into a prototype. Let's assume that, which I actually, you know, there's millions of ideas that requires a fraction of that cost. Then obviously your first job is to figure out where you're going to get the money from. If you really believe in your idea and if you tested it and know it's work and know it's going to generate the money, you'll be able to get that 50,000 dirhams. You'll be able to find an investor, you'll be able to get a personal loan, you'll be able to do something, to be able to find that money to be able to invest it. You know, again, there's a lot of things that are put in place and actually growing.
Is it pretty on par with, let's say, you know, this gentleman's question with markets that don't have these barriers, you know, and they have that kind of environment where it's free to, you know, in certain aspects to do something.
Yeah. If I'm understanding your point correctly, is that, you know,
I just want to know how it can be overcome. Do you think there is scope in this region that it is going to happen?
definitely, yeah, definitely. I mean,
That-
to be honest, things like Innovation Hub, things like Flat 6 Labs in Abu Dhabi, there's numerous startup accelerators, there's numerous incubators, there's venture capitalist firms and investment funds that are popping up every week if you read through any of the magazines. Banks are being more aggressive in terms of giving loans and personal loans to people. So, you know, it's going into an upward trajectory where, you know, they realize that there is a young, energetic population here that are hungry to deliver and create new things and ideas. And obviously a lot of people are capitalizing on this to and provide them with whatever tools they need. Whether it's you need an office, you can get an office for, you know, in 2454 now you can get a virtual license, I think, for 5,000 dirhams, and you'll be able to sell your services. They've got a virtual text for virtual desk, sorry, not a virtual, like a small desk per year, I think 15. So there's a lot of incentives that are coming. Is it perfect? Is it ideal? Is it comparable to the US, let's say? Obviously, you know, it's not yet, but it's heading into that direction. Hopefully I answered your question. Any more questions, guys? Cool. Thank you so much. You've been an awesome audience.